If you don't know something, just say you don't know.
Yes,
So there's no shame in asking questions or admitting
every
you
question.
don't know something. It only becomes a problem when you take it too far
That,
in masking your lack of knowledge. Like when you say like, uh, "This is a stupid question, but I would like to ask something." So in our company, there's no stupid question, but it becomes stupid when you say that you understand, and then it turns out, like, weeks later that you actually didn't know.
welcome to Marketing Inside the Podcast. I am Daniel, a marketer currently living and working in Finland. I will be the host of the show today. This is a really special episode because we will not talk about marketing specifically, but we will talk about leadership communication. In the last year, if you watch the show, you will see that all of the series are about the hard skills. But we all know that hard skills is not the only thing that will help you grow. Besides hard skills, you will also need a right mindset and also very important the soft skills. So that's why that I decided that this year in 2023, I will have episodes, more topics covering the soft skills and the mindset. I am very glad to have here with me today, Danny and Liu.
Hi, thank you for inviting me, and it's an honor to open the year for you.
Thank you, Danny. Danny is the marketing team lead at Serviceform, a global marketing technology company based in Finland. So last time we met each other, I still remember you so much about content marketing and copywriting. In fact, when I remember you, when I think about you, I immediately think about a person who can write really well. So, what happened since then? When I approach you again to invite you to this podcast, you proposed to me that let's talk about leadership communication. Why is this topic? Can you briefly introduce yourself and your journey to the audience?
Yeah, so my name is Danny, and I'm managing the marketing team at Serviceform. Well, content is still very much what I'm passionate about. I manage a team of four content writers, but I want to talk about leadership because it's also a new challenge for me, and it's a new journey for me right now. And there's a lot of things that I have learned, a lot of challenges. So I thought that it would be interesting to share my journey with others.
Okay, so when I stalking your LinkedIn, I see that you work for Service Forms for like a year or so, and then you were promoted to a managing position. After a year, you got promotion. So let's say that you are kind of a new manager.
Mhm.
You are new to the position. So I think that this is really good in a way that your in perspective will be of the person that let's say that happen to have a lot of experience in managing team. So you are kind of a newcomer to this field. So I'm very excited to see what have you learned so far from this position. Let's start with some of the challenges of managing a team. I have also managing team of marketers. So I know there are so many problems of managing people, especially when you are new to the role. Working with people, different types of people is always difficult.
Well, I wouldn't say that I have so much experience yet, but I have ran into a lot of problems. And the most common problems, maybe they're micromanagement, lack of strategy, lack of direction, especially when it comes to communication. There's a lot of problems like not communicating enough, communicating too much, or not communicating at all.
Mm.
So that's one of the main topic that I want to talk about today as well with communication.
Before we go to that topic, can I ask, did you make those mistakes yourself?
Yes, of course, it's very common, especially for a new manager like me. Live and learn. We all need to make mistakes
Make
to
mistake.
learn. Yes.
I have to be honest with you that I also made those mistakes that you have listed above. But I completely agree with you that communication is like the worst problem. When you don't communicate or you miscommunicate, I can say that to me, 80 to 90% of the problems come from communication. Very important aspect, not only in work but also in our life. If you think about it, almost all of our problems come from communication, or miscommunication, or not communication at all.
Yes, exactly.
So, based on your experience, what is leadership communication and why is it important?
Leadership communication is not just communicating with your team members, but also communicating cross departments and communicating with the upper managers or communicating with like your CEOs and your stakeholders. Whatever you say as a leader has impact to everyone that you communicating the message to, and that's why it's very important.
Mm.
So what was your second question?
So, what does it mean to communicate? Does it mean that you just speak to each other, that you have to talk to each other? Or how do you understand communication in the business context?
Hmm. Yeah, so communication can just be simply talking, but it's also like how you get messages across different channels because nowadays we just don't talk face to face. Everyone's working online. So, what you share in a document, what you send in an email, even your body language is also communication. Everything, like every work, is based on communication.
Yeah, that's right. What do you think is the reason why people miscommunicate or don't communicate at all?
Um, Miscommunication can come from many reasons. For example, you didn't understand the message correctly, you didn't set expectations, you didn't put the deadline to it. So that's why the other person that you're communicating to might misunderstand what you're saying.
I also have kind of my own thinking about
Yes.
what is the reason because I also made
Yes.
many mistakes about communication in the past and even now. So when you don't really understand clearly and fully the requirements, or you don't really understand what the other person wants really. So everything you do is based on your own assumption.
With communication, you have to, as I mentioned, like set expectations. For me, I always make sure that I always ask again. I write everything down and I confirm with the people that I'm talking with, and I send them notes afterwards to make sure that we don't waste our time doing something totally different than what we talked about.
Yeah, that's right. That's also my practice. That if there is something unclear, I will always ask. And you are very right that we should also write them down and send to the clients or to the team so that everybody would understand, everybody would be on the same page. And then we also have kind of a written proof that we have discussed this, we have agreed on this. So later on, let's say that if there is a problem and we need to look back on what caused the problem, then we can also go to the written communication that we have.
And it's also very important that you don't let the situation drag on for too long. Like if you have feelings that something is not going right, then it's important that you bring it up immediately, escalating the situation.
Mhm.
Yeah, with the communication, the first communication mistake that I made was not escalating fast enough, and that's a very common mistake with managers, especially middle manager, because you're not only talking to your subordinates, but you also have to communicate with your upper managers, for example, your CEO.
But what happened?
Yes. So in my case, I worked with this individual and they were not performing well. I
Mm,
follow the procedure, like I sat down and I talked to the person and I set up expectations. I gave them a task list and a deadline and asked if they needed any help. They said, yes, don't worry, I can do it. So my mistake was that I let this situation sit for too long because I assumed that they can fix these issues themselves. I didn't escalate fast enough. So
For
I
how
set all the expectation and deadlines for them, but they were still underperforming.
for how long? Was there any like consequence that he didn't deliver his work on time?
This happened like for a whole month basically. So we
Uh-huh.
would just so I would, give them the task list and like writing down everything, and I got on the call with them to make sure that they understand what the tasks were about.
And they
Still,
confirm that they
yes, they
understand.
confirmed that they said that I understand, I can totally do this, but when they return the assignment, something was not right. Like always there's something wrong, something didn't look right, or they just didn't do the task at all.
Yeah, but you said that it was like it lasted for like 4 weeks. So
Yeah.
after every week, I imagine you would like remind him of the task
Yes.
and kind of
Yes.
asking
Yes.
him and help him with the task, right? Like,
Yeah, they keep getting it wrong. So I told them that no, this is not what I want. I keep getting on meetings with him, but then what then like still it didn't happen. Like the work is still not
mm,
good. I did talk about this with my CEO that, hey, this person is not doing well. We are behind because we could not get this work done, but I didn't let her know the like the extent of the problem. Like
mm,
she knows that this person, because the person was new, like they were still learning. So she knew that they were still learning. That's why the situation lasted for so long that um I was hoping that because they were learning that they will eventually get it right. So
mm.
that was the issue that I let it sit for too long.
What happened next, and what was your solution? How did you fix the problem?
Yeah, well, at this point, I let this drag on for too long already, and we wasted a month of work. So I decided to bring this to my CEO, and she made the decision that that person was not going to be working on that
Mm,
anymore.
I see, I see.
Yeah, next time I would do things very differently.
Definitely, yeah. You make mistake, but the most important thing is that you learn something from it, so that you will not repeat the same mistake in the future. So, and I think that in the context of this podcast, we are talking about new manager, let's say people who are new to the managing position. So, of course, we make mistake as long as the mistake is not catastrophic. Yes,
Yes,
we can still fix the problem. Yeah.
yes, and you can totally make a mistake when you're trying to avoid making another mistake. And what I meant is that you can try, like you could give a task list and you try not to micromanage, and then maybe you don't manage enough, and then it becomes like a even a bigger problem.
That's right. I think this kind of mistake is like when you, let's say, you put your trust in the wrong person. Is that so?
Yeah, it's kind of like maybe not trust in the wrong person, but maybe I should have like moved the situation along faster. Like
Mm,
if I noticed that they were not performing well, then you know there's no point of continuing this anymore in the hope that they might improve if it's for so long already.
but did you find out what is the reason behind his not performing?
Hmm. Yes, as I mentioned, the person was new to the job, and he was assigned to our team to help with one project. But then I guess that he was so new, and the learning curve of this project was quite big.
Yeah.
So there wasn't enough time. He was just thrown into the whole thing. So he needed a lot of time to learn and to work on this before he can actually do some work.
I see.
Yes.
So in that case, I would say that for this kind of task, maybe we will need people with a more senior level, right? The people who have the skills that can kind of do something. Like he can start working right away because the learning curve is steep. That you really need to know something before you can do anything.
Yes, knowing your team member strength is also very important when it comes to leadership. And also one common mistake that people don't know where to put the right person, or they put the wrong person in the wrong place.
Right. Thanks for sharing your mistake and your learning from that mistake. For this podcast, we also need to share something with our audience, yeah, something more than just a mistake. So let's say
So
that. So after that mistake, you learn something. How do you avoid to make the same mistake in the future? Is there any kind of process or framework we can follow so that we can have the communication goes well within the team?
so I learned about this framework called PDE, or as I like to call it, for me to remember. So P, first step is process. So when you notice the person is your team member is not performing well, then you need to set certain guideline or process to complete a task, and you need to improve that process. And if you have that process already, but the person was not able to complete the task, you
Mm,
need to ask why they weren't able to follow that process. If they make a good case, you work with them and you make a due process that they can follow. You need to provide the right support, the right tools for them, because you have a job to fix the issues that hinder your team from performing well and help them get the access to what they need. And the D stands for documentation. So with everything, you have to write it down. If you set up a meeting where you talk about setting new guidelines, setting new expectations, setting new tasks, you have to always write it down, so that if something happens, there are people asking you, why did you let this happen? Then you have to prove basically
that's
that
what we discussed earlier.
yeah, you have the proof that I this is what I did. This is my effort of preventing this mistake from happening. So you have to write everything down, and then um, you have to send it to your upper manager and the team member that you're helping as well, so that like when your upper manager asks that, like, hey, why didn't you let me know, then you have proof that, hey, I sent you this note already. Like you don't have to always say that, like you don't have to send a long note, just short notes with a couple of lines saying that I met up with X, I talk about this with X, I this is what we expect from X. Then you have everything written down. So after that, if still the situation doesn't improve, then it's time to escalate to your upper manager. And this might happen sooner than you think. So never let the manager ask you, if the problem was this bad, why didn't you tell me sooner? So as soon as you notice an underperforming employee at any point in this three-step process, you need to let your manager know that you're aware of the issue and that you're on top of it. And it doesn't have to be like a full-scale escalation from the start. Like you don't have to make a big deal from the start. You can just start sharing meeting notes with your upper manager about like that this is happening, and these are the steps that you're taking to improve the situation. Yeah. So a full scale escalation happens when you've done everything and you've given plenty of opportunities to let the underperforming employee tell you what they need, change and do better. Then you can say with confidence that, "Hey, I've tried. I've done everything that I can. There's nothing I can do anymore.
Mm,
It's your turn now to
mm.
take over." Yeah.
That's very important that we have done everything within our capacity before we give up on something or somebody. Yeah,
Mhm.
very good with the three-step process. The first is the process,
Yeah,
second is
improve the
communication,
process.
and
Mhm.
then the acceleration, accelerate the situation, right? The three steps.
Yes,
When you have to deal with similar situation in the future, then you can apply this framework to
yes.
your
And
situation.
it might not be so straightforward
I
as
know.
the 3 step. Something can happen, that, totally throw you off the track, but that's why documentation is very important. That is which is simply, a message that you send to your manager, then even that is enough that you have to write everything down. You need to make sure that, that there is because you are taking responsibility.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah, and I would say that I can also use another word, communication, that you made these mistakes because you didn't communicate enough to your upper manager, right? But if you knew about this problem and you knew how to communicate effectively with your upper manager, then maybe this problem could have been fixed. So
yeah.
it all come down to communication. Yeah.
Yes.
So you know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. Yeah, I think that's the main topic of our podcast today. It is a short and concise topic. But before we end this podcast, I have one last question for you, Danny. Uh,
Mhm.
I ask this question to all of my guests, by the way. What would be one piece of advice that you would give to, let's say, new manager, people who are new to managing a team?
Mm. I would say that while a leader, a manager doesn't have to do everything themselves, and they might not even have to know everything, but they should at least understand the basics of the task that they're giving to their team members, that they have to know. They should know how much time it takes to for the person to do the task. Because if you're giving a task and then you're giving too tight deadline, or you're giving like too long deadline, then it's unproductive both ways. And for example, if you give too tight deadline, then you create a lot of stress in your team. You're basically giving impossible tasks that that will stress them, and then will eventually create a very unhealthy work environment that everyone always has to grind. Everyone always has to work until two in the morning, and that's not good. And then if you give too long time, then it's also not productive either, because they could be doing something else.
Mm,
So that's a waste of everyone's time. For me, as a leader, I like to get my hands dirty, basically. And I appreciate an upper manager that knows how long it would take to do something, because from their own experience, right? A manager, for example, before you become a manager, let's say you have written a blog already, you know how long that should take. You have edited a video already, or you have designed something, so you should know how long it takes to do something, and that's very important. That would be my advice. Allocate the right time, the right deadline for the right task. Yeah.
excellent advice. It's also important for the manager to kind of put themselves in the shoes of the managers in a way that they can estimate how long it takes for the employee to finish their task. I think we were all in that position. We work as an intern or with an entry level job, and we have this thinking that we were afraid to ask when the manager asked us to do something. We would always say yes, yes, yes. I can do it. Like because
Yes,
we were new
yes,
and we were afraid to
yes.
to reject the task or to say that I don't know this, I have to learn
Mhm.
this, and it would take me more time. We didn't want to disappoint the manager, so we want to okay just say yes and then I can figure it out myself. But the reality is that good manager will knows your ability and hopefully how long it takes you to do the job.
Yeah,
So
if you don't know something, just say you don't know.
yes,
So there's no shame in asking questions or admitting
a good
you
question.
don't know something. It only becomes a problem when you take it too far
That,
in masking your lack of knowledge. Like when you say like, this is a stupid question, but I would like to ask something. So in our company, there's no stupid question, but it becomes stupid when you say that you understand, and then it turns out like weeks later that you actually didn't know what was being,
yeah.
discussed. Yeah.
Yeah. So from the company's perspective, it also crucial to create an environment that encourage asking questions, so that
Mhm.
let's say employees and especially new people, newcomers, they will feel safe to ask stupid questions. So
Yeah, we always say is that there's no stupid question
that's right. Don't be afraid to ask stupid question.
for our company. Then everyone is just free to ask
To
whatever. Yeah. Also, that when I allocate a task, for example, I also ask my team member like, how long do you think these tasks would take? Do you have anything else on your plate? Do you think you can make the deadline? And then one new thing that I'm trying to do is trying to bring the employee out of their comfort zone. So basically, like I try to push them a little more. Let's say we're building templates, and the team members say that I can do 5 in 3 hours. Then I try to push a little bit, like, can you do 8 instead?
mm,
So just
yeah,
to
to push
yeah, just
them to their
trying to
full potential, full
yes,
capacity,
yes.
to bring the best out of them.
Yes, but also, like trying not to stress them out. So have to find a balance as well.
For their own good, so they can grow
Mm,
professionally, right?
yes, exactly.
Very good discussion. All right, thank you very much, Danny, for sharing your insight about this really interesting topic, leadership communication. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yes, and there's so much more you can talk about leadership.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, in the context of this podcast, we don't
Mm,
have much
yeah,
time, so
yeah,
I really
yeah.
appreciate that we have a very concise topic today
Mm.
about very particular issues and subtopic inside leadership.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. It's been a great chat for me as well. I hope everyone can learn something from this, and feel free to, tag me in the discussion if you have any questions.
And anyone who wants to connect with Danny, you can find Danny's LinkedIn in the yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Danny, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.